Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be, I don't do one-night stands. Well, I've got an email here from a viewer who, this is a really interesting situation. He started hooking up with a girl who was the sister of his ex-wife. Sounds like Jerry Springer time. Well, this is a really interesting story of what he's experienced here. And I've got a quote that I want to share with you, and then we're going to go ahead and jump right into the guy's email. And the quote says, women like men who are discreet and don't blab or brag to their friends or family about them behind their backs. Women like guys who can keep their mouths shut and respect their privacy. They don't like when their personal business gets aired publicly. It's always better if a guy has the approach that gentlemen don't kiss and tell. If people want gossip and info on your personal life, tell them to read TMZ or the National Enquirer and get a fucking life. The more you talk about your exploits, sex life, and personal life, the less women will stick around and give you something to talk about. I learned this lesson the hard way about 15 years ago. I was dating a woman. I was really crazy about this girl. And at the time, I was still screwing up, and I really hadn't gotten things straight. And this particular woman that I was dating, she was doing a lot of business with my company and the salespeople that worked for me. And so here I am dating her, and several of the guys that worked for me I was also really close friends with at the time. And so as I'm learning this stuff, and they needed to know this stuff as well, or they needed to learn this stuff, I should say, because their relationship were just as fucked up. And I was excited about all the things that I was learning, the results that I was getting. And so I was sharing these things with them. I was giving them intimate details of what was going on. And the thing that I didn't realize at the time, which I later kind of found out the hard way, is that one of the guys that I was sharing this stuff with, he was closing his door in his office and flirting with this woman I was dating and interfering in our relationship. And on top of that, when he was having meetings with his staff or his team of people, he's gossiping about me and her to everybody that works for him. So it's like I would tell him something, and we have 40 people working for us at the time. And like literally within a matter of moments, like everything that was going on was all throughout the office. And all the girls upstairs were gossiping and talking about it. And they also knew my girlfriend at the time. And I remember one time we were all going to go on a ski trip together. And I wanted to surprise her with it. And so she's talking to one of the other girls that work for me, and she's bragging about this ski trip. Oh yeah, Corey's arranged everything. We're all going together. We got condos. It's going to be great. We're going to have a great time. And my girlfriend calls me, and she's all upset with me. And she's like, I keep hearing about this great ski trip that you guys are going on. And like, how come you wouldn't invite me? I was like, well, jackass, I wanted to wait till I got all the arrangements set, and I was going to surprise you with it. Well, I guess it's not much of a surprise anymore. Of course you're going to come with me. You're my girl. I love you. I adore you. I want you to be there. And then her whole attitude changed, and it's like, I remember what like really struck me was like one of the other guys that was working for me, and he did me a favor. He came in, he shut the door. He's like, dude, he says, I know you're all excited about everything that's happened with you and this girl, but it's like when you share all the things that you're doing right, especially things you're doing wrong, it makes you look weak. And after that, I thought to myself, you know what? He's fucking right. And I never said anything again after that. And when some of the guys come in, like, hey, what's up with you and so-and-so? I was like, gentlemen don't kiss and tell. That's why even to this day I don't talk about who I'm dating, how much I'm sleeping with them, or any of that stuff, because I want to keep my personal life fucking personal. This is what I do for a living, and I'm happy to help people. I love helping people, but I want to be able to live my life and not have other people blabbing about me on social media, because what I do in a very public way, when I say anything, people are posting and commenting on it in the comment section. They're posting on it in Facebook. They're posting it in other places on social media. And the women that I'm involved with, they know what I do for a living, and they watch my videos. And I learned 15 years ago, it's better to keep your mouth shut. And that's why I don't talk about my personal life publicly, especially with what I do, because what I do is so public, and I like to keep things private. And so my advice to you is when you're involved with anybody, keep your mouth shut and just have the attitude that gentlemen don't kiss and tell. Even your closest friends, it's better that you don't gossip about your girlfriend and your personal life or women that you're dating to people that you know, because it's going to get back to them. It's going to create problems for you. Like I said, I learned the fucking hard way not to do those things, and it's always served me since then. So, and you're going to see several blunders that this guy makes here with talking about a woman that he's involved with, especially this situation here. He's dating a woman who's the sister of his ex-wife. So he says, "Hey, Corey, I'm 43 years old. I've been following your work for about 6 months, and I'm currently about 2/3 of the way through your book for the first time." Dude, it took you 6 months to get only 2/3 of the way through my book? Shame on you. He says, "Just lately I've been seeing an ex-girlfriend's older sister." Okay, well, it's not an ex-wife, an ex-girlfriend. You naughty boy. "Some years ago when we had a thing for each other, but nothing ever happened because I was with my then wife-to-be." Okay, so you were engaged to get married. He says, "We always remained acquaintances and friends on Facebook, etc. Occasionally she'd comment on my Facebook or text me. And lately we were texting, and I said I'd like to take you out for a drink, and I set a definite date with her." You definitely been paying attention to what I teach. Well, that's good. He says, "I didn't speak to her anymore, and I just turned up at 7:30 that Saturday evening, and she wasn't even ready. In fact, she said that she wasn't expecting me to show at all." Well, that makes it sound like you really didn't have a definite date. It's important that when you're setting a definite date that you say, I'll pick you up Saturday at 7:30. If something comes up, I'll call you. Otherwise, I'll just see you at your place at 7:30 on Saturday night. Is that cool? And she'll say yes. You say, "Great, I will see you then. I got to run. I'm looking forward to it." And that's it. That's how you set a definite date. Make sure that she acknowledges that. Make sure that she understands that she's not going to hear from you until you show up. He says, "She put something together and we went out and we had a really nice evening. I dropped her off at her house and we kissed for the first time ever." I bet that was exciting. He says, "A few days later, I contacted her and asked her when she was free to get together. I went round one Tuesday evening with a bottle of wine and we made out, no sex, and she made it quite clear that there would be none of that." Yeah. "I remember your James Bond thing and I just laughed it off saying, 'Yeah, whatever, babe, like I've never heard that before.'" I don't want you to think I do this all the time. If I had $1 for every fucking time I've heard that from a woman. He says, "A week later, I was back around at her place, and we were making out, and only this time we ended up hooking up, and I stayed the night." Huh. Third date. Most women will sleep with a guy between 1 and 3 dates. And I think there was a third date there. Ding, ding. "Twice that evening, she said, 'I don't do one-night stands,' which I interpreted as, 'I hope you're just not going to fuck me, and that's it.'" You are very smart, dude. You have definitely been paying attention. You've learned a lot from my videos. Even though you haven't been through the book 10 to 15 times, you should have been through it at least a couple of times by now. Come on, dude. Because if you'd have been through it 2 or 3 times instead of just a third of the way after 6 months, you wouldn't be making the mistakes that you're making in here. But that's beside the point. So far, so good in your story. He says 2 days later, she got ill and was hospitalized for a couple of weeks. I visited her in the hospital when I could, but during her stay in the hospital, there were a couple of times when she asked if I minded not coming to see her. So let's put on the brakes here a little bit. Let's analyze what you just said. So, in other words, you went to see her, and at some point she says, "You know what? I'd really appreciate it if you didn't come to see me in the hospital." And yet you continue to do that. Not good. Think about it, dude. This is the sister of your former fiance. She wants to keep things in the down low, and here you are showing up at the hospital. She's in the hospital, friends and family are coming by, probably her sister's coming by too, the one that you used to sleep with and almost got married to. Think about it. Do you really think a woman who's in the hospital wants to deal with that shit? Of course not. He says, "We agreed to keep our thing on the down low, at least for a while, and I believe one of her 3 other sisters was visiting. I had mentioned us to her parents because I didn't want them hearing it on the grapevine." Oh, come on, man. It's like, so here you are, now you're telling her parents about the 2 of you. You're totally not respecting her wishes. Don't you think she'd rather tell her parents? Besides, you guys slept together one time. But your problem is now you're thinking that you're in a relationship. This is what happens when you don't read the book several times. You're thinking, "Oh, I'll just watch a few Corey's videos. I don't need to read the book." So you're totally cock-blocking yourself here. He says, I didn't want her parents hearing it on the grapevine or for them to see me in the street as they virtually live opposite. Well, again, you've been out with her 3 times and slept with her once. It's not your place to go telling her family, hey, I'm fucking your other daughter, which is basically what you're doing. Think about it, dude. And what this tells me is that you're totally thinking relationship, we're going to live happily ever after. I've always liked this girl, we've known each other for years, and now we finally have a relationship. Wrong, 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 wrong. He says, last Wednesday she came out of the hospital and her and her son were staying at her parents for the time being, and she's currently going back and forth to the hospital twice a day for treatment. She texted me to say that she was home, and I stated it would be great to see her, and she says, come around whenever you want. In other words, it's okay to come by her house, but not be showing up at her hospital, but now you've pretty much, everybody knows that you're fucking her. That's not a good situation, dude. That's like tossing a grenade into you've been out with her 3 times, dude. You slept with her 1 time. He says, so the following day, I swung by her parents with a bunch of flowers. Flowers are something you get for your girlfriend or your wife, not a girl that you've been out on 3 dates with. I know you've known her for a while, but you're like way overeager, way starting to overpursue, dude. You don't know the fundamentals and you're fucking up. He says, I stayed 10 minutes and left, and she texted me later that day stating, thank you for the flowers, they were lovely and that I shouldn't have, and she didn't do anything to deserve it, etc. That then there, it's a little overwhelming. It's too much too soon, dude. Think about it. You're showing up at the hospital, she says, please don't, and yet you keep going. Now you're buying flowers, you're telling her parents about your relationship even though you've been out on 3 dates. You're not helping yourself here. He says, I pinged her a message back saying I thought she did deserve it and sorry for the flyby. He says, my ex-wife was dropping off my daughter to me that evening, and that it would be great to see her on Sunday afternoon when I had more time. She said she'd love to, but it depends on what time she gets back from the hospital, she's usually there for 3 hours every time she goes. So now she's giving you a maybe date. That should be a red flag on, uh-oh. This is what happens when you overpursue and you start telling your family, hey, I'm fucking your other daughter, what do you think? Not that you're saying it that way, but that pretty much comes off that way. He says so far she's got to get her son fed, showered, and etc. before she goes back to the hospital at 7 p.m., but she'd let me know. Well, if you'd been reading my book, you would say, you know what? If you don't know what your schedule's like, why don't you get back to me when things are a little more definite, we'll plan something in. Because now you've just told her, okay, I'll sit at home on my hands and I'll wait for you to call me, Your Highness. That makes you look weak, dude. Bad way to go. Again, this is what happens when you don't read my book and learn the fundamentals. And for those of you watching this that haven't read my book yet, go to my website. Underneath the email sign-up box, there's an image of my book. Click on that. It'll take you right to Amazon.com. And you can either download the Kindle edition in under 60 seconds to any electronic device, or you can order a paperback edition. Do it now. Learn the fundamentals. Don't do what this guy has done. Don't follow me for 6 months and then get yourself in a great situation like this with a girl you've always wanted, and since you don't know the fundamentals, you're constantly putting your foot in your mouth. He says, today I went about my business and I heard nothing from her, and so far I have not contacted her at all. Now I'm confused as to what my next move should be. She said she was going to let you know. You haven't heard from her, so more than likely she's blowing you off because now she feels really uncomfortable about this situation. Because now she's had a few days to think about it, and everybody in her family is going, when did you start hooking up with so-and-so? He came by and told me that you guys were dating. And she's thinking, Jesus Christ, I only slept with this guy 1 time. What the fuck? What the hell? Think about it. Think about it from her perspective. Think about the uncomfortable position that you've put her in. He says, have I overpursued both in my visits and my texts while she was in the hospital? Yeah. She said, stop coming by to see me, but yet you continue to do it. He says, note, since her being in the hospital, her text messages, while still quite lengthy, have stopped ending with the little XOXO. It's like you kind of answered your own question there. Before we hooked up, and for days after, virtually all of her messages had them. Because that was before you started blowing things up. He says, she said she would let me know about today, but failed to do so. Like I said, I have not chased the issue. I would just wait to hear from her at this point. She said I could go around when I want, but does that still apply now? In other words, you're saying, gee, Corey, can I just over-pursue her and act like a stalker and just show up whenever I want? Absolutely not, dude. Follow what the book teaches. Oh, that's right. You've only read 2/3 of it. You call once a week and you ask her out for a date. But in this particular case, she says, I will let you know. Well, guess what? She didn't let you know. So what does that mean? This should teach you that you don't put your personal life on hold and take a definite maybe date. Whenever a woman says, oh, I'll let you know, you need to do the takeaway. That's when you say, you know what? If you're not sure of your schedule on Sunday, why don't you figure out your schedule? When you figure out a day that you're definitely available and we can get together, and give me a call and let me know. And she'll go, okay, great. And then you got to walk and never look back. In this particular case, she's not doing what she said she was going to do. Not a good situation. He says, if I ask, it will sound weak. I went out last night with friends and she sent me a message saying, hey, have a nice evening, to which I replied, thanks, babe. Well, you should have said, well, hey, are you going to be available to get together tomorrow night, or should I make other plans? Or I should say, are you going to be able to get together tomorrow night? Because if you're not, let me know and I'll make other plans. That's the proper way to respond to that. He says, today I've heard nothing from her about seeing each other this afternoon. Is she just concentrating on getting better and spending time with her son? I would say it's because her attraction level has dropped. She's not really that keen on seeing you. He says, I can't go anywhere. Perhaps she'll feel more positive about seeing me once she's better and back in her own house. Possibly. But you've over-pursued to the point where her interest has dropped. He says, is she trying to friend zone me? I don't know, maybe. You may have completely blown it with her. You have to just wait and see what happens. It communicates the fact that you're no longer a high priority on her list. Because in her mind, you're showing up all the time. You're showing up with flowers. You're acting like her boyfriend, even though you only been on 3 dates, dude, and you slept with her one time. It's just like the video that I did yesterday. It's like suffocating her. He says it's a bad idea to talk to her about us, bearing in mind we've been friends for years. How often should I say, hey, how are you feeling today, if at all? You shouldn't be doing anything. You should be waiting to hear from her. You're trying to act like her boyfriend and you're treating her like your girlfriend, even though you've only been on 3 dates, dude. Just because you've known her for years and you used to boink her sister doesn't mean that you get to start treating her like your girlfriend after 3 dates. He says, I really don't know where to go from here because it's not like she can hang out and have fun and hook up at the moment. But I don't want to be an asshole and ignore her either. Naturally, I'm keeping my options open too, and I'm still on Plenty of Fish and Tinder, but I'm worried how to handle things if she discovers this fact. You've been on 3 dates, dude. This is what happens when you don't learn the fundamentals of my book. You start making all kinds of unnecessary mistakes. He says, like you say, she's not brought up anything about being exclusive other than the one-night stand statement. Remember, that really only applied that particular night. But since then, you've made all kinds of mistakes by over-pursuing, talking about the fact that you're hanging out, telling her family about it before she was ready to reveal anything. Again, think of the position that you put her in with not only her parents, but her other sisters and the sister that you used to sleep with and were once engaged to. Hello, talk about some drama. He says, your thoughts are very much appreciated. In the meantime, I'm going to be continuing to read your book and watching your videos and hopefully benefit from both. We'll definitely read the book. So, like I would say, at this particular juncture, this moment in time, you really can't do anything else other than wait to hear from her. You need to back off, dude, because you've over-pursued so much and you've constantly put your foot in your mouth and you put her in an uncomfortable position. You may have completely blown it with her at this particular point because she didn't get in touch with you when she said she would. What does that communicate? That you're not as high value in her eyes as you once were. So I would just wait to hear from her, and when you do, just be like, hey babe, great to hear from you. I'd love to see you. When are you free to get together? And then make a date. If she gives you I don't know, I'm not sure, but hey, I wanted to reach out and see how you were doing. Well, I'm doing great. It's great to hear from you. Figure out your schedule and get back to me so we can plan something because I'd love to see you again. I got to run. Talk to you later. Bye. And then she'll realize that next time she calls that she's going to have to let you know when she's available. And then make a date. Hang out, have fun, and hook up. Stop trying to treat this girl like your girlfriend. Your job as a man is simple. Create an opportunity for sex to happen. It's that simple. Let her reach out to you and make dates from this point forward. There's really no reason. If you keep doing what you're doing, I promise you she will friend zone you. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to book a paid phone, Skype, or email coaching session. You can choose any of those options by going to my website, clicking the products tab at the top of your screen, and just following the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.